What's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate business into a life of freedom. And we have got a killer guest with us today. We're talking about how to build and lead a successful team right from the trenches. We've got Lee Barrison is back with us today. We're going to talk about how he's leading his team, how he's starting off brand new agents, which will actually trickle down into some advice for brand new agents. So it doesn't matter whether you are a current team leader, an aspiring team leader, or you could be brand new in the business. This conversation is going to be phenomenal for you to hear. So we've got a bunch of stuff to get into today. First of all, the junior grandmaster himself, back in the box where he so belongs, Greg McDaniel. Greg, what's up?
What's up, man? We are back off the road. You and I had a massively successful, awesome time in Omaha, Nebraska with Jeff Cohn and his crew. But I am back in my box where I belong, in your opinion. Why? I do not believe that is the right way to look at things, because you should be wanting me to be your buddy and take over the world together in person, but you don't, so I'll stay over here. You stay in San Diego. I guess the world will keep turning. But in all honesty, man, I got one of my coaching clients' checks, and it's just so awesome that Lee, you're typing. But I got a card from him as well. He always has the coolest stuff to write in here. He writes, "Hey Greg, just a monthly thank you for coaching me, keeping me dialed in and fired up. I really appreciate all the time and effort you're keeping me in your crazy busy schedule. Cheers, and here's to continued success." These are the small things in life, guys. The handwritten cards, the little mementos, the little things that people do that you can do for your clients and the people that are watching you. And send out cards, or just a normal card or something along those lines. It just means the world to me. I keep all my cards up near my desk. It's just an awesome thing. But that's why I wanted to bring Lee here. Because I saw Lee goes live with his team. They do live calls, but he's a super awesome guy. He motivates the crap out of his team, and you can tell that they're pumped to be around him. And this is the type of leader that you guys need to go find. And if you're in Bakersfield, go to Lee, beg at his feet, and maybe he will let you on his team, because he only wants the best. But all kidding aside, Lee, you're an amazing guy, and I'm so glad to have you back, brother. Right when he drinks.
Greg, I appreciate that, brother. Likewise.
Cool, right, dude. So Matt, we got a great.
I gotta wet the whistle.
Right? Yes, you gotta wet the whistle. Exactly. So
do
Lee,
we.
catch us up. For those that may have missed your initial episode, where we kind of dug into Lee's background and kind of the journey of how he got to where he's at right now, we're going to delve into some other things. So if you didn't catch that, go back and watch that episode. But Lee, just kind of catch everybody at. Just give us a snapshot of what the business looks like right now, so we can get them caught up.
Of course, yeah. So our last meeting, I guess, I ran a small team of 10 agents. And in 2016, between 10 of us, we closed 242 transactions, which basically per agent production was 24 units per agent, which I was super freaking proud of, because we all know what the national average is. And so after creating that team, closing that many units out, I decided, forget this. I'm going to go work for myself. Got a broker's license, bought a franchise. 2017, February 2017, opened up our franchise here in Bakersfield, Antero Real Estate Services, which is like all over the place up there, Greg, from where you're at.
Yeah.
And now we're at about 47 agents as of today. So
wow, that's really awesome.
Holy cow,
that's really awesome.
We got a lot of stuff to get into. Okay, so there's some interesting developments and key decisions that you made, but I want to take it back right kind of to the beginning, because there's a question that caught my eye here on the lead gen description objections group that I think you have a really good answer to, just because I know a little bit about your system. So Leanne Ledford says, we are onboarding a new buyer's agent today who's also a brand new agent. For those of you on teams or previously on a team, what does your first few days look like? So Lee, if someone comes into your team, your brokerage at this point, in that situation, not only are they new to you, but they're new to the business, what does their first few days look like?
That's a great question. Yeah, a good question to lead off. Leanne, I happen to enjoy working with newer agents, because the older agents, the seasoned agents, are a little jaded behind the way they do business, and they're not willing to follow a structure. And so, our our process, I guess, our onboarding process with newer agents is, we actually for the first 2 weeks, we make sure that they hit at least 100 contacts per week, and we expect them to check in with either myself or one of the other lead coaches that works here. We listen to their calls. And secondly, guys, what we do with the agents is we want them to be script certified in 5 different areas, right? So, we hand them 5 scripts, and we expect them to internalize these scripts within 1 month. Otherwise, it's a good sign that they're just not going to be a good fit for our company. And those 5 scripts would be the just listed, the just sold, the expired script, the for sale by owner script, and the complete listing presentation. And so, as far as onboarding new agents, we do kind of create a curriculum up front, because our objective is we want them to be extremely successful. There's, like I mentioned earlier, I don't really have an office. I work mainly out of the bullpen, and a lot of the agents will sit with me or around me, and I think that benefits them because they know that I'm not hiding behind a closed door with my feet kicked up all day long, and they hear me talk, they see me prospect, and therefore they know that, well, shit, my boss is on the phones. Well, I should probably get on the phones too.
Yeah. How's it go for team building morale? I mean, just getting everybody on, like look, like you said, like you're literally in the trenches with them. There's no hierarchy, with you. I mean, you're out there crushing it, and these people don't want to follow you because you're the boss. They want to follow you because you lead. And there's a massive difference there. We had a boss at my last brokerage, or our manager, and she was a boss. She wasn't a leader. Yeah. I mean, she led by intimidation. She led by manipulation. She led by fear. She led by, just cattiness, and everyone didn't respond to her. Our office vacated. Your office is thriving because of your management skills.
Yeah. Yeah. I think camaraderie is huge, and my mindset now, especially as a broker, has changed dramatically, especially bringing on new bodies and so on and so forth. But, you're right, Greg. There's a lot of brokers and sales managers out there that lead by fear instead of being selfless, and that's a kind of a key word in my position nowadays, is where it's no longer a me thing, it's a we thing, and I don't really have that mean bone in my body, I guess you could say, to where I'm trying to strike fear into people to get them to work, but I think as a culture, it's very unlikely in very many offices, which you guys obviously have been around, where the broker is actually standing in the trenches, like we're talking about, side by side, getting hung up on, going through the objections, prospecting, whether it be for new agents or listings. Right. So my structure is I prospect for agents 3 days a week, and I prospect for listings for 2 days a week. So.
Oh, nice.
Question for you on this: Did leading in the trenches, was this something that you have always done, or is this something that you kind of morphed into? Did you learn it from somebody, or were you just like, what, fuck it, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be the man that I say that I am, and I'm going to prove it by my actions, not my words?
I said, fuck it. I'm going to prove it by my actions and my words, because of the fact that, there's just so many, and not to say anything bad about anybody, but there's so many people that talk but don't do anything.
Yeah.
There's so many brokers and sales managers out there that can't even coach an agent, but they just tell them, here's your phone, here's your desk, good luck, go get him, Tiger. Right. And that's it.
Yeah. So you want to know something really funny? So
yes.
the owner of my last brokerage, he got together with the manager, and he goes, okay, I'm going to be co-manager for a little while, but don't you email me about technology, lead generation, systems, or anything. You can talk to me about this and this. And we're like, okay, you're knocking it out of the park there, killer, with that leadership qualities.
Hey,
Greg,
I'm curious,
like we're in trouble.
What was this and this?
fuck off is when we're gonna ask him about. But I mean, it's seriously. I mean, we only saw him when we were in deep shit. We never saw him on the good days. I mean, I was in that office for years. He barely came to any meetings. The manager who took over for the Dennis, the manager that I liked a lot. He retired, air quotes. I mean, he got the boot and got kicked out because the new manager forced him out, kind of a thing. But the management style there was so bad. That's one of the reasons we switched over to EXP is because the leadership there, very much like you and your team with Intero, is the fact that the management wants to be engaged with the agents. They want to help. Their best interest is at your forefront. Like you probably get up going, fuck, I got to talk to Marco about blah 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 blah, and Stacy about blah 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 blah. You go in there and you're like, okay guys, I was thinking about you, and I thought of a tip or a trick or here's a skill set or something for them, because you want to see their successes. Not that you're like, oh well, I'm gonna make about $6 or $7 grand off of you, then you're bringing a fade out of the marketplace and bon voyage.
You're 100% right, man. I mean, I literally show up to work to experience a breakthrough in somebody's business. I mean, that's like awesome. Crack cocaine to a drug addict, like to me, to where, I mean, if I can see one person say, oh shit, Lee, you told me to run this script that I was so fearful of, and I did it, and I set the appointment, and then they take the listing and it sells tomorrow, and then they get paid. It's like, boom, do it again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's just, I mean, not to bore you guys with anything, but there's a couple agents behind this door over here that, I mean, literally showed up brand new. One's Alex Doredia, for instance. Alex has been with me for 8 months, and he literally was on my belt loop for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And out of blind faith, I told him, look, make 20, 25 contacts per day. 5 days a week. This is exactly what you say, and this is exactly what you do, and go out and do it. And he literally just out of blind faith did that. And 8 months, guys, in the business, 8 months, he's already closed 19 transactions. Oh. I think he has about 8 active listings on the market right now. He took one over the weekend, and he's got probably 6 or 7 in the pipe in escrow right now. Wow. That's the breakthrough awesome. I'm talking about right there, man. You know what I mean? But he's just one example. There's a number of different other agents out there right now that are either on the verge of a breakthrough, and I see it happening because you could just sense it, mm-hmm. Or they finally got that breakthrough, and being that they did it once, they know they can go off and do it again. And it's duplicatable. Yeah,
and this is, I think you talk about blind faith, right? And this is Greg. You and I were talking about this in our mastermind video training for those that are on our team as well this morning, and we're talking about how there's, for the most part, agents kind of bow up against that. We all want to reinvent the wheel every time. And the problem is we're not so hot at reinventing the wheel, and it's proven in other areas of our life. So a lot of agents get in and they decide, well, I'm going to reinvent the wheel and I'm going to find what works for me, when they're really not actually very good at doing that. They're not very good at looking at the numbers, analyzing and finding the information they need to execute on, and then tracking their progress so that they actually know whether they're doing the right things. So what they're really doing is they're reinventing the wheel, but they're blindfolded. So they end up just kind of wandering in and bumping in against a bunch of walls, so to speak. Mm. So one of the things that I like about what you're doing, and that I think is crucial to anyone that's listening that isn't in your position yet, let's say they're an agent, especially if they're newer, 3 years or less in the business, if they can find somebody like you're the type of person that you're worth putting blind faith in, because you've been there. You've been in their shoes and you've pulled yourself out of it successfully to the point where you are now. I think a lot of agents, sadly, either don't have the ability to just put their blind faith in somebody and just kind of execute and do what you say to do, or they end up putting blind faith in what the other agents in their office are doing, which tends to be not very good, right? So that when they do use blind faith, they end up using it in the wrong place. They go in, they get an environment and a culture of people that aren't doing anything, and they blindly do what those people are doing. So we go about it all backwards.
Crazy.
Yes.
But the thing is, and you're absolutely right, Matt. I think that, most agents prefer to take the easy way out, right. But it's the agents that take the road less traveled that actually prevail, tenfold. Mm-hmm. but it's the, how do you say it? It's all the, okay. So for instance, like we'll use Alex for example. He's taken a number of listings. He's just basically a listing agent, 8 months in the business. But a lot of people want to take listings. A lot of people want to become listing agents, but they don't because of the fact that they don't want to practice. They don't want to get rejected. They don't want to have to handle objections. They don't want to have to get beat by some other agent. They don't want to have to learn how to present, right? So what do? They work with buyers all day long.
Right.
Well, I don't know about you, but I cannot stand working with buyers. I mean, it's just not my gig. You know what I mean?
I'm laughing because I love buyers.
I know.
I love
Greg's
buyers.
an odd
Come
cat.
down to Bakersfield. I'll feed you all day long, Greg.
Yeah.
Be careful, Lee. You might just get what you asked for. All of a sudden, I'm on the front door. I'm like, let me in, man. Let me in.
Yeah.
I want to play with you guys.
Well, there's, but again, you have that knack, or that ability to work buyers. But I personally
Right.
would prefer to hand a buyer my lockbox key, give them my MLS login information, and maybe a stack of business cards, and have them go find the house. And when you find it, call me and I'll write it up for you.
Pat them on the button. Pat them on the button. Be like, go out there, my child, and go have fun.
That's right.
But the thing is that what I like about what you're saying there is the fact that the competition is you have to have a competitive edge, in nature to go after the listings, because you're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to have a lot of hard times. But I mean, if you can just put on your thick skin and stop being a pussy about it, and just be ready, be ready for the battle. Don't expect it to just fall in your lap. Be ready to fight like a dog, and just go for it. And as soon as you understand the fact that it's going to be a fight, and I had one of my friends, Marasa, years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago at this point. She and I were joking around and we were talking and laughing. I'm like, I'm going to kick your ass on every listing appointment. She goes, you can try. And if you beat me, I'm going to say, good job. But you better be watching for me on the next one because I'll learn what you have done and I will crush you. And I'm like, God damn. That came from a pretty Persian girl. Good Lord. But, I mean, that's the type of attitude. That's, I think, are you teaching that to your people? You're teaching them to fight, right? You're giving them the tools to fight as well, not just saying, well, I'm a nice guy or gal, and then you should just list with me because I'm a nice guy or gal. You teach them, you give them the tools, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think it's a luxury to be a listing agent, to be honest with you, because, and no offense, Greg, by the way, but, but again, I mean, your cost of living goes up. Or your cost per hour goes up dramatically, for one. Sometimes when you're working buyers, it could take you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks till you find them a home. And then once you find them a home, you do your inspections. Then all of a sudden, the appraisal comes in short, and you got to cancel, and you got to put it back in the car, and then you go. It's a long process. Mm-hmm. But taking a listing, I want all these guys and gals out here to learn to put that that listing hat on. Because I do want to see their cost per hour go up dramatically. I want them to have more control of their time. I want them to be able to go out on vacation and not worry about that buyer cheating on them. I want them to have a sign to where they can potentially double in and work with themselves on the transaction. I want them to have that luxury, and I think it's important that they see the value in that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you mentioned it too. There's an element of freedom there that you can have as a listing agent. It's really tough to have as a buyer's agent. Now, Greg is in a very unique and interesting position where he has an amazing team leader to where he can work with the buyers. And if you need to go out of town like you did last week to speak, I mean, we were out of town for 4 days essentially. Like the business kept running without you, even though you've got active buyers, you've got active listings, you've got active clients, the whole 9 yards. The whole thing runs without you. I would say, Lee, most agents are not in that position yet, and most of the time you get into that position by being a listing agent. Without, unless you have a really consistent, predictable stream of buyers, it's hard to kind of make that decision and bring somebody on, even part-time, to be that person that can do that. And so we talk a lot about freedom on the show. To me, for the most part in real estate, and let's say 90% of markets, the key to like the first step to freedom is making the transition from being a buyer agent to a listing agent.
100%. Yeah. And in order to make that commitment, it's really just a commitment. I mean, I honestly think that, I had an agent that worked with me a while back that was working buyers, and one day he just goes, I'm done working with buyers. Fuck it. I'm done. I'm not going to work with more buyers. And I just basically said, okay, well, how much money do you have in the bank? Right? Because you can't just like automatically become a listing agent and expect to start getting paid right away.
Right.
And he had enough money in the bank to where he started handing all of his buyer leads off to other agents, made that commitment, and then within about 2 months, he's just started taking a listing here and a listing here. And as of today, he's still primarily a listing agent. So proud of him.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit, because I think this will be of high value to the people who are watching and listening. So I'm curious about two elements of that. Number one, when he started farming off the buyer leads to other people, did he literally just get rid of them and then let them take them, or did he retain some of the accountability? Was he training, coaching, mentoring those agents who were taking the leads?
No. Basically, all he would do is find an agent in the office that needed some income, and he would spread them out, take a referral fee from it, and just keep moving.
Let him go with God. Yes, that's one approach, and then the other approach is to we had a gal on the show that talked about what she called the one agent team, which is where she would farm her buyer leads out, but then she would put them into a pool of people that she would then coach and train and mentor in exchange. So it was part of her way of making sure that the buyers that were coming in through her listings were being taken care of, and that the agents were actually equipped to follow up with those leads, because she was working with people from other brokerages. So if you're listing and you're in that situation, you don't have like an office culture that Lee has, where you can pass them off to somebody and know full well they're going to be really, really taken care of. The option is to then pass them off to somebody, but then have like a weekly call where you make yourself available and you coach and you train and you mentor those buyers agents. So I wanted to cover that. And then Lee's second thing is when you make that transition, and let's say you just kind of cut yourself off from working with buyers for the most part, what are some of the daily activities that you encourage someone to do besides obviously prospecting? What are some of the skill building activities they need to do to get ready for getting those listing opportunities?
Sure. Yeah. So, other than just prospecting, so we have what we call a perfect schedule, right? Here at the office that we share with the agents, and that perfect schedule, if you follow it 75% of the day, then you're guaranteed to take listings. Okay. And so basically the schedule looks like this. Okay. There's an arrival time. So arrival time should be 7:30 to 8 o'clock in the morning. 8:30 to 9, role play. From 8:30 to 11:30, prospect. 11:30 to 12:30, lunch. 1 o'clock, returning phone calls. From 1 to 2, from 2 to 3 is going to be a lead follow-up. And then from 3 to 6 or 3 to 7 is appointments only. If you don't have any appointments, then you go back to prospecting or go home. And so if you follow that schedule, and if you notice, I mean, just based off what I explained right now, if you notice about 75% of that is income generating versus income servicing. So, at 1 o'clock, why do we put return phone calls, right? And the reason why I tell the agents to put that in your calendar, in your schedule, is because when you're prospecting, you should not be taking phone calls, right? When you're prospecting, you should have like laser focus, blinders on, just completely engaged in the call or at the door or whatever you're doing to prospect. But as you prospect, if you do decide to take that phone call, and it's, I don't know what the other agent on the other end, oh my God, the appraisal came in short. And then next thing you know, you're like running comps trying to give a rebuttal. And then next thing you know, you're checking your email. Well, now your day's all fucked up, right? And if your cost per hour is $200, $300, $400, $500 an hour while prospecting, well, you shouldn't allow some random phone call to come in and interrupt your prospecting time. That call can wait till 1 o'clock to return. Oh my God, the house is burning down. Well, guess what? I can't put it out. So call somebody else. Call the fire department. You know what I mean?
Well, Greg, you've talked about it before. You know exactly how much you're worth per hour phone prospecting.
Yeah, $1,200.
Can you imagine if somebody showed up and said, Greg, I'd like to just go ahead and hand me your wallet. I'm going to take a few, I'm going to take a few $100 bills there from you.
Get out of my wallet, Johnson.
See, and that's really cool that you know that, Greg, because a lot of agents don't calculate the amount of money that they're worth per hour while on the phones, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So then they don't see the value behind being on the phones.
Yep.
So then they push prospecting off. I don't need to do that today. Well, damn it, if you knew you were $1,200 per hour, I guarantee you better get the fuck out of my way and quit asking me questions and let me get back on the phone.
That's
You know
what I'm saying. And that's for door knocking. That's for any type of prospecting, because you are going to have naysayers and haters when you get in the business in the very beginning. The people going, look, I just, I don't understand why you're doing these doors or these calls. They're so antiquated. No one's going to be answering or, opening the front door or anything else. So it's just like, look, dipshit, I know my numbers. Do you know yours? I'm worth $1,200 an hour doing this action. Can you justify me going to have a long lunch with you for $1,200? If you can, fuck yeah, dude, you're buying. I'm out. But if you can't, get out of my way. I got shit to do, homie. Don't talk to me. And the people that are always saying, well, don't do that, it won't work, blah blah blah. Those are always the underachievers. Those are always the ones that are sitting in the back of the conference, not taking notes. Always the ones hating on what the successful people are doing. The people like Lee and his team, what they're doing, they're front row with the notepad out, taking notes. Look around. Every time you go to a conference or you're listening to someone speak or something like that, the people writing notes are the people you want to be surrounding yourself with, because they're the ones that are going to go places or already at the place, just want to get to that next level. It always cracks me up. There's a gal named Bonnie King. She's a top agent, really good lady here in the area. Anytime we had a speaker, anytime we went anywhere, another gal, Lisa Doyle, another big team, that we were at a conference together, those two were always front row. They were always pens out, writing notes as fast as they possibly can. And I'm like, you guys are already epically successful, but like Leo, like you were saying, if you can know your numbers, you can know how and where to get your next business, just by education, by surrounding yourself with the right people. Now, this is a question I have for you. When it comes to your team, how do you have it structured within the office? Do you have like many teams within the master team? Do you have mentor and mentees? How do you guys structure your team?
We're more of a brick and mortar type office now, Greg. So, the everybody in here are single agents. If they want to learn how to build a team, then obviously I want to be involved in that, because I think that there's probably nobody better locally here than myself to teach them how to do that for free, by the way.
Right.
I've spent $3,000 flying out to Jeff Cohen's office for 2 days. I've done these things. You know what I mean? I've gone to a lot of team building workshops, and so therefore I can, when the time comes, I'll help them build a team, but they got to get to at least 45, 50 transactions before we even talk about that. So,
yeah, that's something that Matt, that Jeff talks about a lot as well. When it comes to building teams, what's his typical philosophy on building teams?
So his philosophy is, if you don't build a path so that people can be you, it's inevitable that they will leave. In fact, you're actually setting it up so that they do leave, which is a lot of reason why people experiment or dabble with starting teams and then get out of it and go back to being either an indie broker or, back to just being a top producing agent or something. They take a step back in their career because they get burned when they have a successful agent that they mentor leave them, right? I mean, it's emotionally and psychologically difficult, even though we set it up a lot of times so that financially it's actually in that person's best interest to leave us. So what Jeff's answer to that is to create a path for people within his own team to still stay underneath his structure. His cut of it comes down. Their cut is still pretty sizable, so it makes it worth it for them to kind of bring agents on underneath them, and so that they can stay within his team rather than leaving. And that, to me, that's like a true kind of a broker within a broker model. And so, Lee, I mean, I don't know whether you're experimenting with that at this point anyway. I mean, it's tough to get the splits exactly right. But I mean, to me, you're at least in spirit doing exactly what Jeff's doing by saying, look, you can get to exactly where I'm at, and I can actually show you how to get there. And there's nobody else in the area more equipped to do it than you, because you've masterminded with the people that have already gone ahead and done it. So the one thing I wanted to point out, Lee, about kind of the culture that you built, Greg and I talked about this at Jeff Cohen's Team Building Summit event last week, is the team that you build around yourself. And this goes for the high producing agent with an assistant, right? Whatever business structure that you have, hopefully it should be like kind of like an Iron Man suit. Like it should fit you like a second skin. It should really suit the things that you're really good at. Like if you think about Iron Man's suit, like it fits right over the power plant in his chest. It fits him like a skin. Greg, I wish I would have thought of that analogy. I actually thought of it like 2 days after we gave that talk. So I like that a lot. But I was thinking about that, like, man, that's because I've done it with the podcast production business. Like I managed to build a structure around me that allows me to just focus on the 3 things that I'm really good at and the 3 highest value things that I bring to the business, and everything else is done by somebody else. And their role, their part that they play is actually really well suited to them and lets them focus on the things that are strengths. And Lee, I think the cool thing about the business that you built isn't just that you lead from the trenches, because if you didn't enjoy being in the trenches, that would be a miserable business to build. What you've done is you've built a team that's perfectly suited to what you enjoy doing. Like you want to be in the trenches. You want to show up to the office. You want to be surrounded by agents. You built a business that's an expression of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, and plus, it holds me accountable. So basically, I have 40 to 45 accountability partners here every day.
Yeah.
And again, if I start hiding in the office and whatnot, I've worked at other brokerages, and I'm sure you have too, Greg, where the broker is either non-existent or they cannot teach and train you, and they do not do the activities that they tell you to do. And that just. I don't know how I dealt with that for such a long time. I mean, I've been doing this for 17 years, but gosh, I mean, for 15 and a half years, I worked for those brokers,
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the tough thing about that is, let's see, how do I explain this? I think there are a lot of people that believe that once you kind of hit a certain level in business that you can then go like hop and do other things in business without having like the really deep specialized skills in that environment. I think that most of the people can't.
No.
There are some rare exceptions, and I think guys like, let's say, Richard Branson or Gary Vaynerchuk are among the very, very few. Even Vaynerchuk's not a good example because he can go super deep on social media and he built an agency around that. So let's take Richard Branson for an example. So Richard Branson starts a record label, then a magazine, right? So his skill set goes super deep in music promotion, branding, publicity, public relations, et cetera, right? So then he starts an airline. He doesn't fly the plane. What does he do? He does the public relations, the branding, the promotion. He does the exact things that he was already good at in his background. Guess what? That's the value that he brings to all of his other businesses. What he ends up doing is he sets somebody else up as the specialist in the actual execution and the operations of that business. He's not in there telling the pilots how to fly the planes and how, and all this stuff, right? He does what he's good at, and then he finds somebody else that's the specialist. I think that's the only way that works. So we've got a system in real estate where we have a lot of brokers that they may have been successful in, let's say, financial services, accounting, mortgage, who knows? They jump into real estate and they think that they can start a business because they have business skills, and that's true. But they can't lead, right? Because they haven't done what they're asking people to do. And Lee, I think that's a key point of like the team that you've built, the team that Greg Harrelson's built, and a lot of other folks. Frank from Viral Marketing is one of them. Frank could step into just about any role in his team and catch up pretty quickly and end up doing it better than the person who's a specialist at that position because they've done every single role. And that's a key thing that I think people forget a lot of times.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and people look up to you and they respect that environment more, and they respect a team more when the leader has done every aspect of what they're asking them to do and has mastered it.
Yeah, and man, I mean,
that's going to take a long period of time to get to that level, because if you're going to master every single skill set, we have to define master. I mean, is it just like you've done it a few times and you've read a couple of books and that's mastering, or is that you are the best in the industry in that skill and then move on to another one? Because if that's going to take place, it's never going to happen. But for me, you're never going to get me building a physical team. I have not mastered it. It's something I know that's not my strong suit, and I know that I can spend my time in other areas to teach people other things. Like I figured out that my coaching abilities, I didn't want to be a coach for a while because I didn't want to lead them in all areas, but I finally said, look, I'm a prospecting coach. We go in 3-month stints. If I don't like you or you don't like me or you're not doing what we talk about, I'm on the fuck out. And so I found where I'm good at and where I can, like Lee, like we were talking about before, I can just step into that and I can run it because I've done it. I mean, that's what I've done in this industry is really prospect and all that stuff. When you see an agent that's deficient in an area, what do? Do you try to work on that deficiency, or do you highlight their strengths? Because I always like to ask team leaders, managers, these types of questions because everyone's always got their own opinion on it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Greg, I do both. I don't ever think it's a good thing to only talk about their deficiencies and not spotlight what they are actually good at, because everybody's good at something, you know what I mean? And plus, you don't want to make them feel like you're beating up on them, during the process. So, but yeah, so like right now we're going through a phase in our company where, and this is very normal in any company, but where, the 80-20 rule comes in. 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the work, while 80% of the agents aren't doing anything. Mm-hmm. And so what we're doing is we are identifying the agents that aren't doing as much as they could be doing. And I just got out of a one-on-one right now. I've got about 4 more set up today, and I got my week set up with a few more of these guys and gals. But we want the best out of every single agent that walks in here. This isn't a place where you just come and hang your license and then you have a full-time job. And if you sell a house and you show up to the office and ask 1,000,001 questions because you don't know anything, because you never show up and all this good stuff, right?
Right.
So here we are. We have this group of agents, right? And they're just not doing as much as they could be doing. And sometimes I believe in them more than they believe in themselves. And so this week, basically this week, I'm having a one-on-one with these guys, identifying their strengths, like you said, Greg, but secondly, identifying their weaknesses. Like the one this morning mentioned that he has call reluctance. He's fearful of being on the phone. So we talked a little bit about that. He wants to do open houses, but he's not sure how to do them. And I just said, you get a bunch of signs, you place an ad, you go to the open house, and here's a little script to run on when you walk through the house. And so then I set him up with a plan, and it's a 30-day plan. So the 30-day plan with this agent that is deficient, like you mentioned, or just not doing as much as he could be doing, that he has the potential to do. The plan is to show up at least 4 out of 5 days a week, and during role play, I need you to prospect for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. So that's 100 contacts, typically, 10 an hour or so. 100 contacts a week. I need you to check in with me every Friday. Show me your contact sheet. Show me the ones, how many contacts you actually made. I need you to set up 2 open houses for the month. What else? I'm sorry. And show up to every single training that we have here for the next month. And 1 transaction is what I'm looking for, because I think that's enough momentum to get them into the next momentum. Okay. So that's really, that's kind of the plan that we're setting in place. Now, this is the thing, guys, right? Is I hate having dead weight. I hate keeping dead weight in the office. And it's my intention to get them going. Right? They got into business for a reason. They didn't get in here just so they, like I mentioned, hang a license, go get a full-time job, at McDonald's and whatever else. This is a business, and you have to show up like it's a business. It's nothing more like GregMcDaniel.Inc. You own your own business, so so now it's time to start treating it like a business. But this is the thing, guys. I hate dead weight. So here we are. We got a 30-day plan written out. You have to check in with me once a week. If you do this, you will be productive in 30 days. Right. I promise. But if you don't, well, then we're going to have another conversation, and that's as far as I'm taking that one right there.
Right. I do like it that it's Dan Beer's best. One of my favorite comments, Dan Beer out of San Diego. If you don't do what he says to do to be on his team, he'll just walk up to you and be like, Lee, I'm so sorry. I just heard that you're leaving us. I'm devastated, but I wish you the best. Basically, it's a fuck off, you're out, playa.
Inviting you to resign. We got a good
Well, let me
question
ask
here
you guys
from.
this:
Yeah.
how many brokerages do you know that actually fire people or let agents go?
I do.
Yeah.
Well,
Very few.
my last one did, but you have to really screw up, like
Yeah, like
epically screw up,
Yeah.
let a bomb off in the office, right? And then
like
they
let a
might
bomb up.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
for
might
for
relocate
the
you to
most
a
part,
different office.
it's all legal and liability issues. It's not sales production, right? So Dan says, I'm coming in late to the conversation. Is there a minimum production? And if not met, how long do you keep them on? Lee, do you have any target that you would like per agent production, especially as you get into? I mean, you're at 50 agents, so do you expect 24 deals a year per agent, or expect them to be working towards that?
Minimum standard is 12. Yeah, minimum standard is
One deal a
12.
month.
That's once a month. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and again, if you just follow that curriculum that I just gave you right there, well, you can do one a month.
Mhm.
It's not that big of a deal. I think real estate's very simple, but we complicate it by all these shiny objects and gadgets and shit like that. But if we just stick to a real simple structured schedule, do what Lee says, you're gonna win. And 12 a month, that's all you need to do.
Love it.
One of the things that I love that I like your leadership style because you walk quietly, but you carry a big stick because you want to love on them. But if they don't do what they're supposed to do,
I think Lee's going, I don't think I walk that quietly either, but that's all right.
no. When I say walk quietly, I mean you lead with emotion and with grace and with humility and with love. But if you don't do what you got to do, like you said, you don't like dead wood, you got to go. I will give you the tools. Now just build the damn chair. I even give you the manual. It's a button, number to number kind of a thing, color to color kind of a thing. But if they don't do it, either they go get a 9 to 5 somewhere because you will be happier, you'll be more financially successful, your wife will stay with you, and your kids won't come back pregnant with purple hair. But if you just do this thing, then you're gonna rock and roll. So, percentage-wise, how many people look at you and because I'm sure you say this right at the bat before you hire them, like this is what's going to be expected of you, or is it kind of after they get in the door, this is what's expected of you? But when they look at you and you're like, look, this is what's going to go on. Do you have a problem with this? How many of them are like, yeah, you know what, you seem like a nice guy, but you seem pretty successful, but I don't want to do anything that you do because I have a hangnail. I don't know, whatever. How many people walk away from this? I doubt that. I bet that number's really low.
To be honest with you, I think it's a double-edged sword. So, like for instance, agents that are coming from those brokerages that don't do anything. If you don't show up for 6 months, the broker doesn't even call you to see if you're okay. And then they come here, and then I lay out this curriculum or these expectations of them. One of two things happens. Number one, they get too intimidated. They think this is too much work, and they would prefer not to join our company, which is perfectly fine. Or they're the agent, again, coming from that brokerage where the broker doesn't give a damn about anything, but yet they show up and they have the burning desire to change their business, and I can show them how to do that. But again, it's kind of like a sacrifice. It's going to take 3 to 5 years if you really have the burning desire to close 50, 60, 70 transactions. But if you do exactly what I tell you to do, you will. And the ones that, like we mentioned earlier, that will act out of blind faith and just do what Lee says to do. And I promise, I'm never going to tell you to do something that's going to hurt you, cause a divorce, whatever the story is. But if you do what I say you're going to do, then you'll do great business. And those are the ones that do join and out of blind faith, they do succeed at a high level in a very short amount of time, because there's plenty of agents out, behind this door that have experienced those breakthroughs in their business. So.
Love it. And I want to quickly just mention something. Dan, same follow-up question to that. It says, is he providing leads? I just want to quickly shine a spotlight on if you talk to guys like Greg Harrelson and Jeff Cohn and things like that, and these are guys that in parts do provide leads to a certain extent, but their main focus is always teaching the agent to build and generate their own business.
Yeah.
So to me, it's inconsequential whether you provide leads or not, which, Lee, I don't think you actually do provide leads in the sense of like online buyer leads in the way that Jeff Cohn does, right?
We do. Yeah, we do actually. That's one of the reasons why I went out and spent a few days with them, is because we have Boomtown. And so, but I'm on the same page. There's a curriculum that you have to follow to have leads.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own website. You can pay for your own leads, but
Mm-hmm.
but we will pay for the leads ourselves if you show up, 4 to 5 days role play, if you prospect, if you're productive, because you're right. I mean, this is the thing, and I tell the agents this all the time, is that Boomtown has had a pretty good run since, like, when did they start? Like 2012, somewhere in there, right? But they've had a pretty good run. And there's no telling when the owner of Boomtown says, you know what, guys, I've made enough money. I'm going to go ahead and turn the switch off. Boom. And if that happens,
fuck you, I'm out.
Right.
Gotta make all his venture capital back first.
I got to tell you something. There's so many people building teams in Bakersfield, at least. Like the team leader's been in business for 2 years, or the team leader's been in business for a year, and they have all these agents going to their team with this guy or gal that has very, very little experience. For one, on leadership, but two, their whole come join my team shiny object is, we're going to provide you with leads. Well, right. I don't know about you, but if the light switch ever gets turned off, I want these guys to survive. But if you join one of those teams where they don't teach you anything but how to convert internet leads, and then say the broker dies, say the team leader gets run over by a Mack truck one day, that shit happens, right? Well, now all of a sudden your people are like, what do we do? Right? And then they exit the business, and they're another casualty of the business within 6 months. And I don't want to ever see that happen to our agents. So therefore, to answer that question, God damn, I'm expressive. When you get me to talk, it's hard to shut me up. But
and that's why I wanted you to come on this show. 'Cause I'm like, these are my peoples. Come on.
Yeah. Greg's like, I want to talk. Anyways, but you know what? It's primary objective number one is you gotta learn to create your own business, because you are your own business. The leads that we provide them are just icing on the cake. They're just a substitution, like a couple more deals a year is what we're looking for out of them.
When you say a couple more deals a year, is it like 2 deals a year? Do you ever go into consultation with them and be like, okay, so if you're crushing it, you're here, how do you want to get to here? I mean, is it like how many more deals do you need to get there? Because Matt, you and I talked about that, the difference of instead of going to 4 more deals a month, go to 1 deal a month, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then exponentially grow. But I mean, every person is different, right? And so, I mean, I'm just curious on how those conversations go, because a lot of people, when they're building a team, or if they're on a team or whatever else, they don't know how to take an agent to that next level without overwhelming that agent, freaking them the fuck out, and they're just like, I can't do it. Internally explode, bomb in office, you have to clean it, all the blood off the walls.
Well, and that's what Dan is saying. So Dan has agents on his team. He didn't clarify whether he's a broker or not. Feel free, Dan, to clarify. But Dan says, my new agents tell me we don't have anyone to call. So we work to get them on RedX, but then we get a bunch of pushback. That's what you're experiencing. That is the agents not wanting it bad enough, number one. And number two, I mean, RedX is hardcore. I mean, that's calling expireds. That's probably one of the most difficult lead sources to go after. And it really is best suited for like high D personalities, maybe even high D, low I. Like you almost have to be not as much of a people person. Like Jeff Cohn, who's built one of the most successful teams in the country, would have a hard time making his living off of making expired calls, because his people person will pop out a little bit too much. So that's a tough one. I mean, that's not, if I were in Dan's situation, that's not, that like those are two opposite ends of the spectrum, from going from not making calls at all to pick up the phone and call expireds. I mean, there's a lot of in between there. There's circle prospecting, there's FSBOs, there's database, there's other types of calls you can teach people to make. So hopefully that helps. Dan says he's a broker owner, 15 agents. So yeah, I mean, Lee, what's your opinion on that? If you've got agents that aren't making any calls at all, claiming they don't have anyone to call, where would you steer them towards the next lead source?
I don't see how anyone in their right mind can say, I don't have anybody to call.
Yeah.
Because there's freaking humans all over the planet Earth. And so, I mean, dude, get a freaking phone book if you don't have anybody to call. Buy Mojo if you don't have anybody to call.
Yes.
RedX, for sell by owners, make me moves. your grandma. Call somebody. Pick up the phone and call somebody. And maybe it's because they have call reluctance, right? And
that's really what it is.
That's really what it is. And so I think what it comes down to is this: being that you have call reluctance, and Greg, maybe you'd agree with me on this, is that if an agent has call reluctance, one of the first things I tell them to do is call 5 people that like you, trust you, and want to do business with you, and then get on the phone with an expired, and then get on the phone with the for sale.
Well, what do you think Michael Mayer did every day? His hour of power, like the first 5 to 10 people he called every day. I don't know that he did this intentionally to take care of call reluctance, but it's a great strategy to do it. But the first 10 to 15 people he would call every day were all follow-ups. They're all people that he talked to before that knew, like, and trusted him, and he was calling them to, like, follow up, staying in touch calls and stuff like that, and strategic partners, referral partners, and other business leaders in the industry in your city that are kind of all working with the same types of homeowner clients that you are. So that's exactly the way he started every day. The first hour of his day was nothing but those types of calls. I mean, what better way to start off if that's an issue for you? Now, if you're going after a cold call, if you're going after expired listings, you want to be on the phone at like 7:45 calling expired listings. But if you've got call reluctance and you're not going to make the calls unless you get yourself in state, then do what it takes to get yourself in state.
Well, here's a funny little thing here. I want to tell 2 quick little stories. Lee, we were talking about how. Shut up, Jonathan.
We only have time for 1.5 stories.
Shush. I'm gonna go quickly. Okay, so Lee, you're talking about how people. Don't you put me on the clock, Matt? It's my show too. But we really do have it. Tick, 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 tick. So what it is that I had a gal that I was training her over at my old brokerage, and she was just pissing me off. She wanted to argue and debate with me. I'm like, look, bitch, you come back and you make 5 phone calls to people that you know, like, and trust before the next show. If you don't do it, don't walk through the front doors. I'm tired of your bullshit. And she was kind of, I didn't say bitch, but you know what I mean. Dude, she went out, she called 5 people before the Wednesday class. This is the Monday class that we were talking about when I was talking to her. And she wanted to cheat. And so one of the calls, she called her uncle. And, hey, Unc, how's life? Blah, blah, blah. What are you doing now? I'm in real estate. You are? I was just going to make an offer on a property. Could you write the offer up for me? $2.5 million sale. She came back and told me the story, and I'm like, so you think you want to make more phone calls? She's like, yes. People actually do like you. And, like my friend Veronica Jones, knuckles to you, Veronica, a dear friend of mine out in Texas. She is now actually becoming my ISA. She's amazing on the phones. Amazing. But for expireds, guys, she took it and went a whole different direction. She went and popped by the expireds, had a conversation with them, didn't try to sell them. She listed 3 properties last week, signed on the line before she walked out the front door.
Wow, it's amazing.
By being
That's
a
awesome.
human. I mean, it's unreal what you can do when you have a big old pair of lady balls up in there, and you just go out there and do something that's different than what you've ever done before, and watch what happens because you break out from behind you shitballs. This thing, the phone, like, I'm going to call you because I'm a pussy and I don't want to go see you and I get rejection in person. No, you show up and you're like, look, here I am. What are your other 2 wishes? Let's get this home sold. You just go for it. Matt's grinning from ear to ear if you guys can't see him.
I'm here. What are your other 2 wishes? Please, I dare anyone of those watching or listening to the show to show up an expired listings house and do that. And please report back on how quickly you get thrown off the property. All right. So let's finish out with a few things and shout outs and all that good stuff. But before we do, how do people reach out? And if they happen to be in your area and they get this because you sent it out to them because you were an amazing featured guest on an awesome show, let's say they want to connect with you about joining your team. How do they reach out?
Just give me a call, 661-213-6857, or you can email me at Levon, L-E-V as in Victor, O-N, Barrison, B as in boy, A-R-R-I-S-O-N @gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook as I am the one and only Lee Barrison on Facebook as of today. So.
What did you have? Hits put on the other guys? My competition's eliminated.
All right, and then Greg, how do people reach out and connect with you if they want to potentially partner with us?
Go ahead and call Matt at 402-661. Oh, should I say that? No. Okay, get a hold of me, guys. Go to bookmcdaniel.com. Again, it's bookmcdaniel.com. Learn about EXP, see if it's the right fit for you. See how the Kim Kardashian ass of value that we're going to put on the back end that Matt and I are going to bring. Programs, masterminds, all kinds of learning opportunities. I'll explain it to you on the call. So go to bookmcdaniel.com Nope, not right now. Finish the podcast, then go. And then that's where we can talk more about it. And also, guys, go share this podcast to someone who needs it, because there are a lot of people that need to hear the man, the myth, the legend, the Lee Barrison right here, and to kind of learn how a leader should be. I'm just going to throw that in there. So, Matt, how can they get a hold of you besides not? But if they could, what would they do?
No, they wouldn't. No, I just wanted to point out, so Lee, you mentioned that you came out to Jeff Cohn's office and you saw the training there. Guys, if you want to plug into something like that, if you're a single agent or if you're in Lee's position, you're a broker, or even someone like Dan who is watching, he's a broker with 15 agents. You're at that kind of middle point where you don't have the funds really to hire like a dedicated sales manager, and so you're trying to do it all yourself. That is a heck of a lot of training to come up with on the fly every week. You can actually plug into Jeff's training that broadcasts from their 50,000 square foot office in Omaha, and you can plug your agents right into that. So you can check all that out at EliteRealEstateSystems.com. They're good friends of the show. You can get the single agent version for $17 a month. You can plug into the team level for $500 a month, and that gets you a bunch of seats. Get your agents into that training. It broadcasts every Wednesday and Friday, so you can check that out. If you join up with us, if you're a single agent and you join our EXP team, you actually get that 100% for free. That's something that Greg will go over on the call. So, Lee, we want to be honorable to your time because I've got like 2 questions that I would love to ask you, but they'll take a half hour to answer, so I'm not going to. But I just want to say that I really appreciate you coming back on the show, and there's plenty more. I want to talk about leadership and mindset and the transition that you made to broker. And I think it'd be fun to get you on a podcast with Greg Harrelson and talk about that stuff.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
We'll have to save that conversation for another day. Sadly.
I can't be a part of it. You jerk off. I can't come to the party. That's it. No. Friendship card. Take it out. Tear it up. That's it. Over.
All right, guys. Shall we put a bow on this one?
We should. And Lee, what is your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue. I don't want to say fuchsia. I'm not going to say fuchsia in public.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Matt.
All right. Let's put a blue bow on this one.
Nice.
All right,
not
guys.
Blue balls, but it's a blue bow. All right, guys. Hey, we love it to absolute pieces. The reason why we keep doing this show is because we love people like Lee. We love bringing this knowledge to you guys. Please don't make it shelf assurance. Go out there and put some self-assurance into your life by putting this stuff into your businesses, like we were talking about. So, Lee, you're an amazing human being. I love hanging out with you guys. And as always, guys, peace out, ninjas. We go.
Bye, guys.